welcome back to the SEC playoff predictions. I am joined today by Joby, Painkiller, and Bravo, and I am Joey.
Sup?
Hello.
So, welcome. We're just going to get pretty much right into this, talking about the regular season of the Southern Esports Conference here. Joby, what are some of your thoughts about the season leading up to at the playoffs?
I personally was more involved in the Group A side of things, and I knew it was such a battle kind of for that third, second place spot, and ultimately the teams that were competing for third place were just out of reach of beating UTK out for that qualification spot. So for me, I feel like if you're AU or your MS, your eyes are on UTK to make sure that they live up to the name of the spot that they stole from you.
For sure, for sure. And like we said, that battle between Auburn and UTK, it was one of the very few three mappers that we saw throughout the regular season. I mean, it surprisingly wasn't really that many of them, and it was just an all-out brawl throughout that entire game, and that ultimately decided who was going to go through the playoffs. Painkiller, I know you did a lot of stuff in Group B. What are some thoughts around that group?
A lot of my stuff around Group B was really, I didn't see too many maps that went to, or too many games that went to three maps. Most of what I saw was like a 2-0 shutout, and even then, the losing team didn't really get more than 9 rounds in. But I do think that everybody performed really well, and it kind of just came down to like IGLing and strats and everything like that. I do think that Western Kentucky is in the runnings to be really good. Because I did look at some of their matches and everything, but overall, I do think the Group B kind of has a little bit of an upper hand at this point.
For sure. And again, something else we saw, that group, I mean, going into the season, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but personally, I thought Group B was the most competitive group. We know USF, Bulls Fighting, they have a very competitive program, but I don't think the roster they fielded for this was maybe their strongest. FAU, we have decent bit of history. I mean, Bravo, you can talk on FAU's history. We thought that they were probably going to be the topping of the group almost.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we saw them out in the SEC land back in the spring, and one of the things that we noticed was just their teamwork and their integration with each other. It's just kind of a shame. Like, we didn't really get to see them on stream that much this season, but we thought, based off of past performances, that FAU would be up towards the top. But it's just kind of unfortunate to be where they landed.
For sure. And I also want to give a big shout out to LSU for, I mean, really exceeding my expectations. I mean, from everything that I heard, they're pretty much a new roster, like almost scrounging together here at the last second to join this tournament. And they put on a really, really solid showing against pretty much every team they played against, especially FAU, taking them down and knocking FAU out of playoff contention.
Yeah, it was. I think honestly one of the bigger upsets in this league. And if this is just the summer league, just wait until what happens in the fall and the spring once these teams get more time together to bond, to grow off of each other in order to strategize and make sure that the team mental game is at its peak. I mean, we could see these teams do amazing things in the fall.
And Painkiller, I wanted to take a second. You're really involved with the Mississippi State guys. I think that they put on a really solid showing, again, for sort of coming together last second. I wanted to just hear some words about what your thoughts were on for Mississippi State.
I definitely think that we're a growing organization, and we've got a lot of a way to go. But I am really proud of what the guys have done. A lot of the time, what would happen is we get into a round or we get into a game entirely, and we get just that much closer. It's not a matter of kind of if, but more so when we kind of pull ourselves together. I do think that we have a lot of a way to go, but just it's more about like post-plan situations and stuff like that. But these guys, this is not the roster that we were playing with a semester ago. This is a brand new roster, and for not really having that much in terms of practice and all of this, I think these guys are killing it, and I am super proud of what we've done, and I'm really excited to see where we go in the future.
I mean, I don't know about the rest of you, but I am ecstatic about this fall season coming up. All these teams going to be able to get their full rosters in. Joby, did you have any other closing remarks about our group stage here?
For the group stage, not really. I mean, obviously, it was kind of said that only the top 2 seeds were moving on, which made it ultra competitive, like you said. But I feel like before we go into kind of talking about the individual teams, like looking at overall the 4 teams that kind of moved on, like, oh, yeah, I would say UT and I believe it is like WKU, right? They are the top 2 teams. They are at like the Davids of the group that you expect to be the 2 in the grand finals. They were the number 1 seeds, right? Versus like UTK is the underdog. Same with OU, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see if they can upset anybody.
And I mean, to that point, Western Kentucky kind of came out of nowhere.
Oh yeah.
I reached out to them to come join our tournament here, not really knowing anything about them. I had never played them. I mean, I think the most experience I had was I ran into one of their guys in a ranked game like a year ago. They completely blew away my expectations coming into this tournament. And like you said, I mean, I think they went from David to Goliath there. I mean, almost in week 1 when they took down Oklahoma.
Yeah, that match was really something to watch. Honestly, I think it was one of the better matches of the entire season so far. Just, everybody had high expectations for both teams entering the league. I mean, Oklahoma more so, and then WKU comes out of nowhere and is just able to put up a perfect 4-0. It's really one of those things where it's like with these smaller leagues, as we start out, we start to see the skill differential is kind of wide at the beginning, but then as the seasons go and become more and more competitive, and everybody's trying to compete for spots to enter in the group stage or the knockout stage, and I'm sure that this is going to be something to behold come the fall.
For sure. And I mean, to go a little bit more into Group B's playoff bracket here, Oklahoma, I mean, you can't help but think they might even be a little bit disappointed with the fact that they did drop that map to Western Kentucky. I think going into these playoffs, they're going to have something here to prove. Painkiller, what are some of your thoughts around Oklahoma coming into this playoff here?
Oklahoma is definitely one of my. I don't play favorites, but I do, and I think that I think Oklahoma is definitely one of my more favorite teams to see. Just sheer in the sheer amount of what they do. I mean, looking at their Haven game, they had this insane Killjoy setup where Breach would play off of it, and Jet would just like. I don't even know how to explain it. It was so Killjoy would like put her turret in A short, and they would put a breach like further back. As soon as the turret would go off, the breach stun goes, and they swing. And it was something wild to me. And it was just like one of those instances where I was like, oh my god, these teams are like really, really committed to playing together, and they have like plays and strats that they use together. And that was, I think Oklahoma is definitely one of those teams that play really, really well off of each other. There's a lot of synergy there, and I'm really looking forward to what they have to offer.
For sure. I mean, and that first matchup for Oklahoma is going to be against their arch nemesis in Texas, in UT. I mean, I don't think we could have really asked for a better semifinal matchup there. Joby, I mean, what are some of your thoughts around, I mean, Texas in general, and then even just the matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally an undefeated no maps drop team with UT versus Oklahoma. Like you said, their blood's burning. They should not have lost certain maps that they now want to prove themselves from having lost. And I mean, I just want to say, like, I took a deep dive into the archives for this one, right? Because they're like, even though you said they're nemesis, they haven't really fought each other recently, and like they've been coming from different groups, so it's hard to draw a comparison line between them. But back in CVAL South, right, both in the fall and the spring, I found a comparison line. Okay, they didn't compete against each other. Don't get me wrong, they didn't, right? But they both competed against the Ottawa Braves. All right. They both lost. But Oklahoma at least took a map off of them while UT was 2-0'd. So, if I got to go with one of the teams here, I'm always going to go for the underdog, and I'm always going to go for the individuals who have motivation, have a reason to win instead of the more defending champs. So I got to go with Oklahoma in that matchup.
You went into the slums
I
for those
did,
stats.
of course.
Goodness.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
Research, I gotta look elsewhere, okay? I mean, it might be a little bit different rosters, but it's the same kind of people, the same kind of like energy.
It's the same general structure, See, I mean, I think you got a little bit ahead of us there in the predictions.
I couldn't tell where
Yeah.
we were. I couldn't tell where we were.
Spoilers.
Whoa, now.
Well, we still got to talk about Tennessee. We still got to talk about UTK here. I mean, them coming in with probably, I would say Group A was the least competitive, but most competitive group. I think UT pretty much had it, for the most part.
Yeah, they had it on lock.
They were the heavy favorites in that group, but the rest of those 4 teams, it could have been anyone. We didn't really know much about them, and I think they were all just extremely even. And UTK ended up coming on top of a very strong showing against Auburn and Mississippi State. I guess I'll give it to Pink.
I mean, I got nothing else to add on that. That was spot on.
Right.
Honestly.
I will say.
There we
There you
go.
go.
Yeah. So this is what I saw. So I looked at the Tennessee and Mississippi State game before I became a caster, and I have never shut off a stream so quickly. It was the one round that my team threw a 4v1, and I love the guys, but I was screaming at my mom. I couldn't watch it. And like I said, we got a lot of work to do on playing together and stuff like that. But I mean, that also goes to show how powerful one of UTK's players can be. It is definitely like I will say when I watched Tennessee, it was more like there would be a hero player every round, and that was more intimidating to me than like seeing an entire like Avengers level threat coming onto my site. But I mean, when they start to string it together, they definitely do. And having an Avengers level threat individually is I don't know. I think that they got a bit of work to do, but they can definitely get there. Literally just like a couple of practices.
I completely forgot about that round. I forgot I was casting that game between Tennessee and Mississippi State. The Sin for Mississippi State pulled off a massive, I think he pulled off 4, didn't he?
He's a 3-piece.
It was a 3-piece from back boathouse on a Sin. And
It
then all of a
was.
sudden Kobe just comes out of nowhere and with the 1v4 just to reverse.
It was the chip damage on dudes. No, because he randomly just wallbanged
Here we go.
in the switch. And I was like, there's no way. Get off. No, there's no way. And I don't know. I've never been so livid at a match before. And I guess it's not even the fact that it happened to my team. It was the fact that it happened at all. I was more flabbergasted at the fact that it happened in general than the fact that it happened to my team was just salt on the wound. I was like, there's no way. And then we go off to continue. And now there's like clips going around and TikToks being made on my team. And I was just, I can't do this.
No.
I can't, man. I
Not
can't.
the TikToks.
And I'm not gonna lie, I think y'all lost another 1v4 or 2v4 right after that.
I stopped watching. I turned it off. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't look.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
unfortunately, in my case, talking about that, Auburn against Tennessee was a very similar deal, but we were able to get a map on him, which was kind of huge. But then, I mean, it's like something just clicked with UTK that Auburn just couldn't really respond to. On Fractured, they were able to lock down each site, in ways that I really haven't seen in the league that much outside of UT Austin. It's just something to see where it's like when when Tennessee gets going, they get going, and it's hard for them to stop. They were able to turn around a 13-8 loss on map 2, which, if memory serves me right, was Lotus, and then they were able to turn around to a 13-5 win on map 3 on Fracture.
We haven't seen a lot of Lotus in this tournament at all.
For good reason.
Hey, I like them.
For good reason.
No, I love Lotus. I think Lotus is.
I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of Lotus. I'm sorry.
Up there.
I think that there's a lot of cool stuff that can happen. Another thing I will say, back to Mississippi State. We were in the league going into that match. I will say, and then what I was more impressed about the fact that we sort of kind of stood our own, because the average rank for Mississippi State is a lot lower than most of the other teams. Most of our guys have not hit a mortal, and Just throwing that out there. So
I mean, y'all really punched above y'all's weight, but sorry, Painkiller. Sorry to do you like this, but we're not here to talk
Can't do
about the losers.
no. We're talking about UT Austin,
We're gonna
Tennessee.
talk
We're talking about Western Kentucky and Oklahoma.
It is
We're talking about
playoff
these.
time. It is playoff
Oh, yeah.
prediction
Yippee.
time. All right.
Playoffs?
Playoffs.
You want to talk about playoffs?
Yippee.
Let's talk about playoffs.
All right.
Let's talk about playoffs.
Zobi, we're gonna get right into our predictions. I mean,
I
you
already
already kind
said
of
it,
said
dude.
what
What do
you're
you
going
mean?
for, but for our first match on Saturday, Texas versus Oklahoma. Who do you got and why? I mean, you already sort of said, but
Yeah,
let's get into it.
other than my deep dive into the archives in favor of Oklahoma, I guess I can say another reason why I support Oklahoma is just based on the overall group stage stats, right? They are retake demons. I don't even need to watch the VODs, right? When you have 2 out of the 3 players having the most defuses with 8 from Nathan and 7 from Civ, you know that they have to be getting onto that site and getting the retakes successfully to get that defuse. So if you have 15 between between the top 3 diffuses in the entire group stage, then I know that you are gonna be dominant on your defensive half. And I know UT's been kind of, I think their attack halves when they've been a little bit weaker, so I think they're just gonna capitalize on that through and through.
All right, Painkiller. What are your thoughts going into this match? We have Zobi going for Oklahoma. Are you gonna switch it up, or are you gonna stick with the same?
I'm with Oklahoma here. I can't lie.
Yeah.
I can't lie. See, UT Austin, they got a lot of stuff going for them. I can't lie. UT Austin, I'm almost 100% sure I casted a match for them, if I'm not mistaken. But I also casted for Oklahoma. And I will say, the more memorable match for me was Oklahoma. Hands down. I love watching Oklahoma play. And a lot of their players, it's a bit different from looking at a team like UTK, for example. Because while they do have hero players here and then, I do feel like they play together a lot more. And I feel like that's something that UT Austin hasn't really faced. Because who has UT Austin played?
I mean,
so
they
far?
played everyone in Group A: Tennessee, Auburn, Mississippi State, and Arkansas.
Yeah.
We're not
so,
going to talk about that Auburn game.
Yeah, so UT Austin, I feel like one of the big things there, they haven't really faced a group with a higher level of synergy that I do think that Oklahoma has. Because we have gone over that in Group B, we feel like that's a more competitive stage to be in. I feel like at a point, Oklahoma is a lot more together in the ways that they play. Unlike anything that you've seen really in Group A, because UT Austin and Tennessee. I feel like Tennessee was the hardest match for Tennessee was the hardest match for UT Austin, but I feel like Oklahoma is going to be a lot harder of a match for them than that.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and get into my predictions here then. I think Texas is going to take it. I think they're the favorites coming into it. Their roster has been together for longer. I think they're just going to be a little bit more drilled and be able to grind out this best of 3 just a little bit better. I think it's going to be close. I think Oklahoma are definitely going to have a chip on their shoulder, and they're definitely going to want to win this game. Like Zobi said earlier, this is the first, 2 rival schools. This is the first time they've really gotten to play in a competitive match. To our knowledge, ever. So I think there's going to be a chip on both of these teams' shoulder. They're really going to want to take it. I just think Texas are going to be a little bit more drilled. Peppa Pig on the IGL. He just has the brain. He just knows what to do. I think he's going to be able to help just drag them over the line here. And then, with that said though, Bravo, are you going to completely split the vote, or are you going to trump me and go for Oklahoma?
Not so fast, Joey. If you take a look at the stats here on the league overall, UT Orange has the second most winning spikes planted in the league. This we know. Oklahoma has the most winning spikes defused in the entire league. Not second most, the most. And honestly, everybody talks about frags and, skill plays here, there, everywhere. But honestly, at the end of the day, Valorant, while a tactical shooter, and kills are important, there is an objective at play there. So as long as Oklahoma can stick to what they know and are able to just work together as a team and get those spikes down, I think Oklahoma takes it.
I have to disagree with you there. It's a tack shooter. You said it right there. It's all about shooting
I did say
the other
tack
team
shooter
in the head. shoot the other team in
Yeah,
the head. I think Texas is better
true.
at shooting the team in the head.
And if you look at
than
the
Oklahoma.
most
Texas is
kills,
better
I'm
at
just
it.
saying, hey,
Who
let's
has the
let's
second
hold on.
most kills
Let's slow it down. Let's slow it down. Let's slow it down there. Hold on. It's a tactical shooter. I will say that, right? It's a tactical shooter. But at the end of the day, you can have a million frags, but there can be a big fat zero at the top of that board, and you would lose the game. In terms of finishing the objective and making sure that spike detonates or does not detonate, I think Oklahoma's got that way more.
Yeah,
than
I mean,
else.
I
Not
literally
way,
have statistics
but
to
you get the
back
point.
this up, Joey. If you look at the most kills, right, 2 out of the 3 are from LSU, and they didn't even make it to the playoffs. And you know, the one person who isn't on the LSU in that statistic is the Oklahoma player Polar with 162 kills. So if you're talking about FPS
Polar is
and
crazy.
tactical shooter potential,
Polar
it
is
goes to
nuts.
Oklahoma technically.
I mean, that's one player from
And-
Oklahoma, though. Texas has been so evenly spread across that board. They are a team. Oklahoma, they have Polar there carrying them, sometimes Civ popping in there. It tends to be a lot more individual. I think Texas, as a team, collectively shoots the head better.
I will say this to Joey's credit, UT Orange does have a higher team
Wait,
KDA of 1.9, but Oklahoma is literally right there at 1.8.
I mean,
So
Texas are finishing
really,
their
if we go specifically on the kills argument, it could go either way. But when you look at the stats here, with the most winning spikes diffused, Oklahoma could probably take this easily. Even if UT Orange puts down a spike every single map, I'm pretty sure Oklahoma could probably find a way to come back and get that thing diffused.
Texas are into the game so quickly, they don't even need to get that many
Oh my
kills.
goodness.
Also, with I will say this: Polar. I'm pretty sure I casted a game for Oklahoma once before and then once after. Polar was not there; he was subbed in, and then he got actually in.
Yo.
So in the first game that he did not perform all that well. The second game, he popped off, and now with a fluke game of going negative, he still has one of the best KDAs in the league. I'm just
There
saying.
you go.
I think I may be a little bit outvoted here, but agree to disagree, everyone.
I mean, it's 3-1, but you know, whatever.
It's okay.
I
think
think either way, we've got a
Using your
super
UT pick,
interesting.
okay?
Yeah, I think we've got a super interesting matchup no matter what. I'm excited to see this game.
I'm just excited to see both these teams play against each other. These were
I mean, yeah, that Red River rivalry is going to be something else, man,
For sure. These were
on the virtual plane.
these were also my 2 top picks coming into the season preseason. I had Oklahoma, Texas. I mean, I think
Well,
it was
the
a pretty
league's
safe pick.
rigged. You heard it here first, folks. It's scripted. It's all.
Of
It's
course.
all. It's.
Well, is it though? Because they're not in the finals.
No, it's not. I'm making a joke, Joey.
Is
Relax.
it? Is it? I don't know. But we do have to get into our next game. Possibly, I mean, it's a very interesting one. Western Kentucky versus Tennessee. Joby, thoughts, comments? Who's gonna win it?
I mean, it's a very similar situation to UT versus OU with, right, UTK, you know, they fought for their spot. Literally, like, one game could have determined their fate, and they grasped it in time so that they could punch their ticket here to the playoffs versus Western Kentucky University. I know you said they had their own fight in Group B, but they still have not dropped an entire map just like Austin did. And for me, like, when I was casting for Group A, like, I always used UTK as this kind of comparison point for the other teams. I was like, oh yeah, they did this against UTK. They did that against UTK. And although that, like, does make them a stable team in my eyes, I just don't know if that stability is enough to overwhelm or overpower WKU or Western Kentucky, who just has had that kind of growth throughout the entire season. And for that reason, I do think in this case, I can't root for the underdog, and I have to go for Western Kentucky.
For sure, and I mean, I think you said it pretty
Mhm.
well there. But the way I sort of see Tennessee is sort of like that like gatekeeper team almost. They're like the
Exactly.
gatekeeper to the top. They're very much a very, very good team, and you're either worse than them or you're not. They're so incredibly stable. You're either worse or better. You're either gonna win everything or you're not making it out of
Mhm.
groups, basically, and that's what they proved, obviously. But Painkiller, let's go. Let's see what you got. Who's winning? Am I wrong?
Let's get a few
Am I
things.
wrong?
Let's get a few things straight.
Mm.
Let's get a few things straight. I told you this earlier. I don't play favorites, but I play favorites.
Yeah, you do.
Um,
Get out of here with that.
Let's be real. Let's be real. Okay. UTK hit a nasty clip on my team. Let's be real.
Oh my
Let's also be
So
real.
are
I've
you just
casted.
gonna straight up
let's-
take Western
let's-
Kentucky out of
No,
spite?
no, 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 no,
Is that
no.
what I'm hearing?
No. This is also. I've casted for WKU. I like a lot of what they're doing. I didn't get to do an interview for them, unfortunately, because I wasn't there to continue that. But I do like a lot of what they're doing. I do like the way they play their close plant. I love the way they execute sight. I think that they're a very, very solid team. And to be able to go 4-0 in Group B, which is the more competitive bracket, in my opinion, I got to give it to Western Kentucky. And they haven't dropped a map. And I feel like Tennessee being in the easier group, kind of, and they have dropped a map, it's not looking too good in that matchup. But I play favorites, and I do like Western Kentucky more than I like UTK, but I'm still interested to see what they got. A lot of respect to both of these teams, but at the end of the day, I got to go with Western Kentucky.
I mean, we say Group A was the easier group, but the only map that they dropped was against Texas, one of the preseason favorites. And I mean, if we're going off of me and what I've been saying Texas is gonna win here. So I mean,
My guy,
what's up?
UTK dropped the map to Auburn.
I said
Remember?
drop a match.
Oh, match. I thought you said map. I'm like, my
Match.
guy. Like, what are you
Match. It
on
was a
about?
match. But anyway, so I mean, with that said, Western Kentucky have just looked incredibly strong throughout the entire season. I mean, Vision recently switching over to like Scan Initiator, the Sovas and stuff like that, has really shined on that role. I mean, I may have been observing his first game on Fractured there, and I kind of bullied him with the free cam. But the next game he had, his utility was near perfect. I mean, a couple little things, but it was near perfect. He played perfect. He positioned well. I think Western Kentucky may just be a little bit too much for Tennessee to handle. I don't think it's as cut and clear as y'all have maybe said. Because like I said, Tennessee, the only match they lost was against Texas, and I have Texas beating Oklahoma. So I don't know. I don't think it's as cut and dry, but I think that definitely. I think Western Kentucky are the favorites going into this one.
Yeah, I mean, Joe.
And
Yeah.
You go for it.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, I'm right there with you, man. I mean, Western Kentucky's been perfect all season. They haven't dropped a single map at like this entire league going through the stats. Like week 1, they handled Oklahoma pretty well, and then they took on LSU. Then they took care of FAU. Then they had their sweet little bye week. And then they went on to cap it off against USF. I mean, they haven't dropped a single match all season. That being said, not only did UTK drop a match to Texas, like you said, they also dropped an additional map to Auburn, who, as we know, finished third in Group A. And honestly, it was a valiant effort from both teams all season long. But in the end, I mean, it's going to be a close match. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's cut and dry like you said, but I do think in the end, Western Kentucky will take this one.
Yeah, I think we've all come to an agreement on that. We believe that Western Kentucky will take out Tennessee, but don't count out Tennessee. They have, like Painkiller was saying earlier, incredible individual players who, I mean, can completely flip a negative situation on its head and just punch you in the face and just like, hey, we're here. So I don't think Tennessee are out of it, despite us, I mean, picking 4-0.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it may be
yeah.
a unanimous decision, but like we're probably all thinking in our heads, like this could probably go to overtime on at least a map.
I'm expecting a 3-map match if it's best of 3.
100%. Yeah.
I'm expecting a 3-map match.
You see, I'm sort of. I think it's gonna go 2-0, but to either team.
Ooh.
I don't think it's gonna go 3 maps.
I mean,
I think whoever.
if we look at it kind of like we did with UT versus Oklahoma, right? Like, even though like Western Kentucky has the highest KDA, like for their team in the group stage, like you can also go back and say, okay, UTK has the second most winning spike diffuses with 23, right after Oklahoma's 28. So if we're going off of the kills versus playing the objective, then I think it's going to come down to a very similar battle in that regard.
I think so, and you could almost even argue that Tennessee, they had the more competitive. I mean, well, not more, they had an easier group technically. We might also be able to argue they didn't really have as much stage to prove. They didn't have the juggernauts like Oklahoma and FAU, LSU, all of
Mhm.
that really, really pushed them. Other than Auburn, who pushed them pretty hard. But I don't know. I think we my brain. We know Western Kentucky is gonna be able to choose which map they get to pick first and stuff like that. They get to choose if they want to be team A or team B, so they get to choose the map order of who bans. I think that if Tennessee win this, they're gonna have to take it 2-0. I don't think if it goes to 3 maps, I think Western Kentucky are gonna be more prepared and be able to shut it down. See, do we have any other closing comments on any of our playoff, any of our season here?
Just be sure to tune in on twitch.tv/Southern Esports Conference for this Saturday and Sunday to watch these semifinal matchups.
For sure, we got Oklahoma and Texas coming in on Saturday, tomorrow at 7 o'clock Central Time. And then we have Western Kentucky versus Tennessee at 7 o'clock on Sunday. So make sure to stay tuned, subscribe to all of our channels, and we will see y'all next time.
Test it out.
Peace out.